everyone, it's Samantha Moon, and today I'm going to show you how to sew an AOT jacket completely from scratch. All my cosplay tutorials are really easy to follow, so let's get into this one. You'll need some tan fabric. I'm using some no stretch cotton fabric and I used 1 1/3 yards. Start by folding your fabric in half. Grab a jacket from your closet and throw it on top of the fabric. You don't need any fancy sewing patterns to sew. All you need are the clothes from your closet. We're starting with the torso, so fold the sleeves in. Outline the jacket onto the fabric using sewing pins. Once you have it outlined, now you can cut. Cut about 1 inch away from the jacket. This will ensure that the jacket isn't too tight. This is especially important when you're working with fabric that doesn't really have a lot of stretch to it. Alright, now you have your torso. Fold it in half to make sure the sides are even, and if not, you can just trim a little bit. It's sewing time, so everything that your arms, torso, and head don't go through. So sew on the sides and the shoulders. As you sew, remove the pins. Set the torso aside, and now you can start on to the arms. It's pretty much the same thing. Fold the fabric in half, put your jacket on top, and pin around. Don't follow what I did at first, follow this. You want the top part to be on the fold, and you want the seam to be on the underneath of the arm. That way you don't have a big old seam running down the outside of the arm. To make the other arm identical, so you're not lopsided, grab the arm you just made and pin around that. And just like that, you have 2 sleeves. To make the sleeve fit into the jacket, you're gonna line it up and cut around it. I already did that and I didn't film it. Now you can sew the sleeves. Just like the torso, sew along the pins. We're ready to attach the arm to the torso. You do this by making sure the inside of the torso fabric is touching the inside of the arm fabric. You kind of mush them together and then just sew around the armhole. And now you have sleeves on the jacket. A jacket is open in the front, so we're gonna do something a little scary right now. We're gonna cut down the middle of the jacket. Fold the jacket in half so you can see where the middle is, and then mark the middle with the pins. Cut down the middle following where you put the pins, and make sure you're only cutting on one side of the fabric so you don't cut the whole jacket in half. I always worry about doing that, and I think I might have done it once. Here comes the satisfying part. You can now flip your jacket inside out to reveal all the pretty seams that you just made. Alright, it's starting to look like a real jacket now. This is the time where you can try the jacket on and make sure that it fits you how you want it to. You can always take it in if you need to. While you have the jacket on, also pin how long you want the jacket to be. These AOT jackets are really tiny. They're short on them, especially Mikasa's is short. I had to say her name with precision. I'm probably still pronouncing it wrong. Turn the jacket inside out, and where you cut down the middle, flip the fabric over on itself. Run it through your sewing machine like that to make a hem. Also do this to the end of the sleeves. Hemming fabric makes a nice clean look and also keeps the fabric from fraying. Now that everything is hemmed, I'm going to show you how to make the collar. Super easy. To make the collar flap things in the front of the jacket, don't know what those are called, you just fold over the fabric. The fold begins at the top, at the end of the shoulder seam. You can see that at the top, and then you go down kind of like mid-chest. To make sure that my shoulders are the same length, I'm using the fancy measuring method of grabbing my phone and making sure it's the same size. Trim a little bit off the top of the jacket so it's a little bit more straight. And then cut a little bit off the collar flap thing. My measurement for this is just a little bit underneath my collarbone when I tried it on. Now hem the neckline just by folding the fabric over and running it through the sewing machine. Now you're gonna add some fabric on top of the collar flaps in the front. So we'll give it a nice clean look on the outside so it's not that inside hem on the outside. Cut out a rectangle of fabric and then hem that. Take the rectangle and put on top of the flap and then sew directly on top. You just sew directly on that hem line you just did. Now you have some nice looking collar flap thingies. You can trim the excess of the rectangle in the inside. Just make sure you leave enough so it can still fold over from the outside into the inside. Time for the main collar that's up top. I find this to be really fun to make and really simple. I know it looks difficult, but it's really, really easy. Grab some fabric. Grab a shirt or jacket that has a collar that you like. And then trace that as you did the jacket. Make sure that the length of the collar is the length of where the top of the flap things that we just made, it reaches across to reach the top of those. If you don't have a collar to copy, or the jacket you were using earlier doesn't have a collar either, that's totally fine. Just make the collar about 3 inches wide and the length that I just described and angle the ends of it. You're gonna cut out 2 of these. Once you have them cut out, you're gonna hem all 4 sides of both. And yes, that is totally a trash can in the background. And now it's gone. The collar pieces look really good. And right now you're gonna put them together. If you saw right there, I'm lining them up. So the inside hemming is on the inside, they're touching each other, and it's pretty hemming on the outside. Sew them together by following the stitching that you did. So the stitching lines up and you don't have like 2 stitching lines. Doubling up the fabric like this is gonna make for a thicker collar and allow it to stand up by itself. All right, looks really good. Take an iron and iron everything out. This makes it nice and crisp and adds some stiffness to it. Do this to the front flaps too. This will help them stay down and help that fabric fold over like that. Open up the jacket and lay down the collar to where you're gonna sew it. Like I said earlier, it's gonna reach from the tops of those flappy things. Lay down the neckline straight and flat, and then you're just gonna sew the collar on straight and flat like that. All right, now check this out. This is so cool. You're gonna fold the collar in half and just bring it over, and then boom! Doesn't that look like a collar? It's so cool. So we're totally finished with the collar now, and now I'm gonna do another fancy little detail that the jackets have. This is totally optional, just a little extra. The jackets have this like fancy fabric hem on the bottom. I do not know what to call that, but I do know kind of a way to make it. It looks good, so I'm gonna show you that. Cut out some fabric that is the length of the complete bottom, with a width of about 3 to 4 inches. Fold that in half and sew down the opening all the way down. I'm turning mine inside out just to put the stitching on the inside of it. Iron it down flat, just like you did the collar. All right, I said this little flappy extra thing is extra and fancy. So this is how you attach it. This is similar to how you put the sleeves together. You have the outside part of the jacket touching the outside of this piece that we made, and then it's gonna flip over downwards. Thor is helping me show you what it's gonna look like after you attach it. So now just sew that down and hem the ends. All right, now we have a very beautiful seam down there, and to make sure that this extra fabric lays down flat, I am ironing it. If that is just too much extra for you and you don't want to do that, that's fine. You can just hem down the bottom. So what I did at first, before I looked more closely at the reference pictures, and I did this very beautiful hem. All right, we got the fancy collar, we got the fancy whatever that is on the bottom. Now we're gonna add some fancy pockets. Not too fancy though. I like to do things that look really good but are really easy to do. Like this, I'm just grabbing a piece of paper and just drawing out a square. I just eyeballed the size of the pocket and now I'm cutting out my little template for it. Place your template on fabric and cut about a ½ inch away from it. Now hem all 4 sides. And you got yourself a pocket square. These pockets have a little flap on top. So to make the template for that, you just grab a piece of paper that is the same shape of the pocket and fold it in half so you know where the middle is and draw out a little triangle. Cut it out and now you have a little template. To help you to hem it so you know where to do the stitching is I'm just drawing around the template and then I know to fold on that line. Using a straight up pen, they make fancy little sewing pencils for this exact purpose, but the pen doesn't go through the fabric, so it's like whatever. So yep, just fold on that line and put it through your sewing machine. Place the pockets, and this is going to make the jacket look super good. Place the pockets and the flaps where you want them to be. Now, to attach them, you just sew directly on top of the jacket and follow the stitching of the hemline that you did on the pocket. Oh, and make sure you only sew 3 sides of the pocket and not 4. I was really worried the whole time I was doing this that I was going to sew the wrong sides. Yeah, so don't sew the very top of the pocket, so you can leave that open and then it can actually be a functional pocket. And now you have a total functioning pocket. Pretty easy to do. This is actually my first time ever doing this, so I'm glad it worked out good. Okay, now for the flaps, you're gonna sew them above the pocket and make sure the stitching falls on the jacket and not the pocket so you can lift up the flap and still get into the pocket. Now the pockets are complete. One last fancy thing to put on the jacket are like these little flaps that go on the shoulders. So I just made little tube things that we kind of did on the bottom of the jacket and just making them the size of the shoulder and then just directly sewing them on. That button I'm pressing on my sewing machine is a reverse button. It reverses the stitching so you can double it up and make it stronger. I ran out of the thread I was using for this jacket, so I switched over to this bright yellow thread that I had. It's fine, it totally works. Well, good enough for me at least. You're totally done with all the sewing of this jacket. Moving on to the scouting logos. This is really gonna add some pizzazz to the jacket. A really easy way to apply the logos is to print them on iron-on transfer paper. Put the paper so the lines are facing up, so there's like little instructions right there on the printer. When it prints, it will print on the nice side, not the line side. This printer hasn't been used in a real long time. I think you can kind of see that by the dust on it. So I Amazoned some more ink. And man, ink is not cheap. It was more than the fabric that I bought for the costume. Got the ink, and of course there's also a wig in this bag. I buy a lot of wigs off of Amazon. This one's for my Froppy cosplay that I'm gonna do next. Alright, so now you can get printing, and boop, there they go. Before you iron on the logos, you cut around them. Cut off all the excess paper that you don't want to appear on the jacket. You'll need 4 total logos for the jacket. 1 to go on one of the front pockets, 2 for the arms, and 1 large one for the back. Iron out any creases on the fabric before applying them. Peel the backing off of the logo and place it on the jacket with the image side up. Place parchment paper on top of the logo. The transfer paper I bought came with a sheet of parchment paper. And iron on for about 30-40 seconds. And there you have it. I'm glad I didn't burn it. Now put 2 more patches on the very top of both arms. And remember that parchment paper or you will burn the logo. Good thing that didn't happen to me. It did. I totally burned it right there. Alright, now time for the big one for the back. So peeling this one off. I do all my YouTubing in the garage, so I'm wearing a big fluffy sweater. It gets cold here. And not forgetting the parchment paper this time. So for the smaller patches, you apply the iron for about 30-40 seconds, and for the larger one, you can do about like 90. You can just check it periodically and make sure that it's not burning and see that it is adhering to the jacket. It's really amazing how well this works. And just like that, we're all done. I hope you liked this tutorial, and if you did, subscribe to my channel so you can see more cosplay tutorials. And all right, I'll see you next time. Bye.